If you frequently drive I-81 in Virginia, there's a good chance you've seen the Safety Service Patrol in action. They respond to incidents and assist motorists in need, all with the goal of keeping traffic moving on the interstate. I'm Ken Slack, Communications Coordinator for the I-81 Corridor Improvement Program, and you're listening to the Improve81 podcast series. Today, you'll meet some of the contract operators who provide SSP services for VDOT about their experiences in the field and how the Safety Service Patrol works in concert with the other operational improvements on the interstate. So we have several guests joining us today, and I'll have them introduce themselves.
Hi, I'm Sandy Wyrick. I am the TOC Program Manager.
I'm George Kluchesky. I'm the Safety Service Patrol Supervisor in the Northwest Region in Stanton.
Chad Fisher, Southwest Region Foreman, Hanging Rock Office.
Dave Covington, VDOT I-81 Program Delivery Director.
Dave, let's start with you. The SSP program certainly is not new to Virginia, but explain how it expanded with I-81 CIP, Improve81.
Yeah, so the Safety Service Patrol program has always been looking at what were the high crash areas, high delay areas, high incident areas, and try to use what funding we had previously to associate resources with those areas. With the development of the I-81 Corridor Improvement Program, there was some additional funding that was available through that program that we were able to expand those services, because what we've seen over the years is where we had, pockets here and there of high incident areas, that's kind of spread over the years to many more areas of I-81. So the I-81 Improvement Program has enabled us to add additional resources, add additional trucks, add additional personnel, add additional routes, and add additional hours.
So basically, we have entire coverage of the I-81 corridor now, right?
Effectively, yes.
Well, Sandy, tell me in general terms, how does SSP help with safety and traffic flow on the interstate?
Well, as Dave said, we were able to provide more route hours. So what that means is we are out there 7 days a week on 81 from 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. in the Stanton district. Doesn't matter what the weather is. It doesn't matter if there's holidays. We are out there patrolling, waiting for the next big thing. And even if the next big thing is just a disabled on the shoulder, that's what we're here to do. We can provide you, now this is all free, 2 gallons of gas. We can change your tire. We can give you water if you're overheating. And most importantly, we will sit there and provide a buffer, because our trucks are equipped with arrow boards to help redirect you if we have to take a lane.
Chad and George, if you guys could each touch on this, if there is such a thing, what's a typical day for an SSP operator on I-81?
A typical day on 81 for SSP is very hectic. 1 minute you could be doing a tire change, and clear from that, and you could be working a crash. Next thing you know, you're giving water or doing a jump start. It's a very, very active day, and, helping people and stuff like that.
There are times when you're just running from call to call. They seem to never stop. They can be as simple as just somebody who stopped to use their phone, or then the next thing you're running off to a multi-vehicle crash and having to deal with traffic control and fire departments and rescue squads. And then there are some days on weekends and holidays in the early mornings, you may go for hours without encountering anything. So there are some times when you are just looking for things and waiting for things to happen.
So when you're doing that, when you're looking and waiting and watching for whatever's going on in the interstates, what is it that you're watching for, listening for?
We're looking for a number of things. We're looking for infrastructure damage, so signs down, trees in precarious positions that need to be handled, guardrail damage, potholes. We're scanning for motorists on either side of the interstate that need help. We're also looking, off the highways too. There have been times when we've had patrollers where they've come upon and looked over a guardrail, and all of a sudden there's a vehicle down behind the guardrail that someone in a passing car couldn't see, but because we're higher up in a pickup truck, we can see the vehicle down there. So there's a number of different things throughout the day that we're looking for.
They're also a very integral part with the entire operation. Not only do they do what they have just mentioned, but they do quality assurance checks as well by going up and down the interstate and verifying what is on our changeable message signs, because we don't have 100% coverage along the corridor, so it helps fill in those blind spots that we have.
So they're the eyes and ears out there.
They really are. They really are.
And they're not really the only ones out there. We have incident management coordinators from VDOT, as well as state police, fire rescue, tow providers. There are times when they're all out there together. So, how do they cooperate with those other first responders?
Well, they all cooperate well. The SSPs typically are the first on scene. So they give you that initial scene size up. So that helps us basically plan what we need. If that safety service patroller says, hey, I've just got the interstate shut down, I've got an overturned vehicle, this is what I need, that traffic operations center is calling that and getting them their help. Now, while they're calling all of that in, they are still setting up cones. They're getting their signboard up on their truck. They're checking the motorists to make sure that they're safe, to prepare the next first responder that arrives on scene to help get that going even faster. So when you think about it, we're all cogs in a wheel, but the SSPs have a very important part with getting that going successfully.
There's also standardized training that's required of the Safety Service Patrol operators. It's identical to any responder on the highway system. So there are incident management classes that teach us how to interoperate with other agencies, how to work under a command structure, which is all mandated under the Federal Highway Administration.
Now, going back to a little bit to the the day-to-day process, Chad, tell me, what are some of the most common things that you run across, and how do you deal with them out there?
Most of the time we have a lot of tire changes, especially during the summer and stuff. A lot of the campers blow tires and stuff. And believe it or not, we do still give out gas. A lot of people still run out of gas this day and time with all the bells and whistles of the modern vehicle.
So the motorist assistance is pretty common.
Yeah.
And those sound like minor incidents, but anytime you've got a vehicle on the side of the interstate and you pull up, as Sandy was saying, you're sort of the buffer, letting folks know that there is a stopped vehicle. I mean, how important is that to somebody who runs out of gas or needs a tire change?
It's very important, especially if they have no other means or whatever, or they're traveling through the area and stuff, don't know anybody in the area they can call. They can call pound 77, and SSP will be there to assist them.
Kind of on the flip side of that, we've talked about some of the common things. Maybe I can get you both to tell me about a memorable incident, something that really, the one that you went home and told your family about.
There's a number of those from every patrol operator. Probably my personal favorite, as I was entering the interstate one day, I got to the bottom of the on-ramp and had to come to a stop. There was a chicken standing in the middle of the road. And so as I stopped and I realized I have to call dispatch and explain this to them somehow. So I marked out with a chicken trying to cross the highway.
Did you ask it why?
No, it never did give me an answer. But the story only got more confusing after that. As I corralled the chicken and picked it up, I was attempting to put it into the field next to the interstate, and I hear somebody behind me yelling, "Sir, sir." And I turn around, and a lady had stopped her vehicle on the shoulder, and she proceeds to ask me, "What are you going to do with that chicken?" I said, "I'm going to put it in this field over here." And she goes, "Well, I'll take it." I said, "Well, where are you going to put it?" And she goes, "Well, just put it in my car." So I explained to her how I couldn't let her safely drive down the interstate with a chicken running loose in her car. So she said, "Well, just put it in the trunk."
I'm guessing it ended up in the field after all. But
Yeah, I told her I didn't feel comfortable with putting a live chicken in her trunk and told her to have a nice day. And the chicken wandered off to hang out with the cattle.
We've had all sorts of debris. I mean, any debris that you can imagine has been cut loose from a vehicle. I worked in Hampton Roads many moons ago, and, because of the water around there, it was nothing to see a boat in the middle of 264 or even on the high-rise bridge. If you don't tether it down, it's going to come off. We had one of our SSPs remove, one of the rock walls. There it was, just hanging out on 81.
like the climbing walls?
Yeah,
that
the
you
climbing
see
walls, yeah. Thankfully, it's a lot lighter than it looks, so he was able to just pull that over. But you've had tubs, we've had boats, we've had pigs.
And chickens.
And chickens. and chickens. And, if you can think it, we've probably seen it.
And I know we laugh about this, but anytime you've got debris on the interstate or an obstruction of some kind, that is a traffic hazard. And you can be driving behind somebody who all of a sudden makes a lane change, and you can have a pretty serious incident as a result of that.
There's definitely a chain reaction that'll happen from just about anything. There is currently the move over law in process for us. However, a lot of the motoring public doesn't know that it exists. And it states that you are to slow down to a safe speed. That doesn't mean the speed limit. That means a safer speed. And if conditions warrant, that you are to move over. Because unfortunately, we have had several SSPs end up injured from people not paying attention.
Now, Sandy, we have seen a lot of growth in the SSP program over the years. Why do you think it's been so successful?
It's a partnership between VDOT and our contract staff. They are representing VDOT, and they do so very well, I believe. And, it's the quality of people that we hire. It takes a special person to go out every day and do this job and want to come back and do it again. Because no 2 days are the same. You might have a day where you get a chicken, and then you might have a day where you're, dealing with someone on the worst day of their life. So knowing that you never know what you're going to walk up on and still choosing to come back and do that every day, it takes a special person. And I am grateful that we have those people statewide to do this job.
We bring calm to the chaos out there.
You really do. You really do.
I can't help but think about what it must be like being out there on foot, dealing with debris or a disabled motorist or helping with traffic control during an incident. As soon as you pull that truck off to the side of the road and step out of it, you're in harm's way. So I'm curious about the training that you receive. So how do you put all that together to keep yourselves safe out there?
We go through a 3 to 4 week classroom training, field training combined. We give you a foundation and a start of possible stuff that you're going to see out here. We can't give you every situation out here, but we'll give you a good start of possibilities and how to react. And we go through the fundamentals of the practicals and water service, gas service, push training. And, you get CPR certified, you get fire extinguisher certified, and you'd have to do a tire change certification before you get solo patrol.
The training breakdown, it consists of classroom and hands-on field training. So you'll spend 2, 3, maybe 4 days in the classroom getting all your book knowledge, and then we'll take that out into the field and translate that to practical applications. And then some of our folks come in with previous emergency services background, so they have some other safety training. Everything revolves around how to do this as safe as possible while you're out there.
Dave, SSP is a key part of what we do for operations on the interstate, but it's just one piece of the puzzle. Put it into perspective. How do all these different operations improvements we've made as part of the CIP, how do they all work together?
Yeah, we installed 51 additional cameras on the interstate as part of the I-81 Corridor Improvement Program. As Sandy mentioned earlier, we don't have complete camera coverage of I-81. I mean, I-81 through Virginia is 325 miles. That would be a lot of cameras, especially with the topography. So we have been able to supplement what the Traffic Operations Center can see live with those additional cameras. We've installed about 30 new digital message signs that are also integral in the whole communication aspect. We want to warn drivers of upcoming hazards so that they don't encounter those hazards. It's a safety mechanism not only to protect the public, but also to protect people like emergency responders, including safety service patrol officers. So that's a big investment, and not all of these message signs are actually on I-81. Some of them are on the feeder routes that draw traffic to I-81, so we can let motorists know, don't get on I-81 right now. Find an alternate route. There's a major crash. There's closures. There's traffic queued up. So we're helping to keep traffic off the interstate to not aggravate whatever the incident is. The towing industry is a big part of this. We've instituted what we call the TRIP program, the Towing and Recovery Incentive Program, that has really helped to drive down our lane clearance times. So when we have a crash, one of the big factors is how long does it take to resolve that crash so people can get moving again. When people are sitting in traffic, when there are queues on the interstate, that is a much higher probability of a crash occurring. All of these things work together to drive down the risks. And what we look at at the end of the day is how long did it take to respond to that incident, to get somebody some help? That's where the safety service patrol officers really come into play, because as Sandy mentioned previously, they're usually the first ones on scene. And the third is, how long does it take to clear that incident, to fully resolve that incident? And what we've seen with all of these additional resources added over the past few years is those numbers are really coming down. And that's exactly what we wanted to see. And that's what proves to us that this is a good, viable investment.
Those numbers are coming down, which means steadily, day by day, that interstate's getting a little bit safer.
Yes, sir.
All right. Well, Dave, Chad, George, Sandy, I do appreciate you taking the time to sit down and share your experiences and knowledges with us as we learn more about the Safety Service Patrol program. And I'd also like to thank you, our listeners, for your interest in VDOT's efforts to improve 81 through SSP, other operation enhancements, and capital projects. You can find all of our podcasts, as well as videos, newsletters, and an interactive map, and lots more information at improve81.org. And as always, we wish you safe travels.